This is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com here in my front yard garden, and I have a very special guest with me today. So this is the man, and he's eating my homegrown strawberries.
I thought you meant the strawberry. Okay.
That's my special guest, and it's going to get eaten.
My special guest.
Well, anyways, I have a good friend here with me. His name is Don Weaver, and he literally wrote the book, and he's a modest guy, but he wrote the book on soil remineralization and using rock dust. And he got me into the rock dust, and that's why I'm so excited about rock dust. So I'm here now with the expert, and I call him an expert. He probably wouldn't consider himself an expert, but I think he's the expert. He knows a lot more about rock dust than most people, in my opinion.
Tell him who the real expert is, John.
Nature is the real expert. We want to just model nature, you know, and people try to make nature hard by spraying toxic chemicals. You know, chemicals don't appear in nature. Miracle-Gro don't appear in nature. But guess what? Compost appears in nature. Things like rock dust and minerals that should appear in nature but are getting harder to find in nature. So we need to maybe duplicate nature and use technology to emulate nature. That sound right?
Sounds like a plan. Yep, I think that's very accurate. My perspective is nature's got a pretty good design going, and if we're wise, we'll study it, see how Mother Nature does things on the planet, and then when it's productive and constructive and health promoting, we should obviously imitate or cooperate with those methods and those systems. So as far as the soil life system, which produces all the vegetation and all the plant and animal life on the earth, it's all based on the foundation of a healthy mineral base and a complete mineral base. The minerals are the first food of the microbes in the soil, and the microbes are the first step in the whole chain of life on Earth. So if our first responsibility in being good stewards or caretakers or regenerators of the Earth would be to make sure the soil microbes have their complete natural diet, which is basically the rock minerals from the Earth's crust plus the organic matter that grows out of the Earth that needs to go back to the soil to replenish and build it up. Year to year, potentially we can build the soil to a higher level of fertility each year if we're giving more than we're taking from the soil. So I and others have been experimenting with rock powders for the last, say, 30 years, and before that people were doing it back in the 1800s, and some people even further back as far as the Essene cultures in the Middle East. Supposedly they use ground up rocks to add to their compost to make a much more fertile compost and produce the basis of their fertility and health back many centuries ago, as Edmond Bordeaux-Zaquet talks about in his book, The Ecological Health Garden. Very interesting book.
What's the difference between, like, the Azomite that I have here, the Gaia Green glacial rock dust, and, here's the ocean solution or ocean-grown solution, basically minerals from the sea concentrated in a bottle. Much easier to ship. And then we have just an example here of some other kind of stuff that's sold as a rock dust, but kind of looks like sand to me. So what's all the differences, and, why don't you just start with that?
Okay, sure. Well, Azomite's been around probably 50 years now. It comes out of Utah. The name comes from A to Z of minerals. A-Z-O-M is A to Z of minerals. Ite, to make it a cute name. And so it has every element in the Earth's crust, as far as we know. It's been analyzed extensively, so it is a pretty complete mineral fertilizer. Legally, some of these things aren't fertilizers according to some state laws, but in terms of the definition of creating more fertile soil, these are fertile soils. A lot of the chemical stuff out there that are called fertilizers, I think might more accurately be called defertilizers, because in the long run they result in depleting the soil of fertility, because they're adding maybe 3 elements or so back to the soil to stimulate the crops to take out 60 to 90 minerals. So does that make sense in the long run? Obviously not. I don't think it makes sense in the short run either, but that's been the habit of humanity since World War II, approximately, the chemical forcing of soil production by adding stimulating chemicals, akin to adding stimulants and drugs to the human body to try to force out some expression of health instead of building it from the sane foundation upwards. Anyway, Azomite is a good product that's on the market. I don't particularly advocate any one product, or I think any of them that work well in one's local environment and is practical to bring in makes sense to consider as a source. The Gaia Green Glacial Minerals, is that this one? I've been
That's
using
that
this one about the last 3 years and getting really good results with it. Comes out of British Columbia. It's a natural glacial mix of rocks, and usually the best rock dusts are from mixtures of rocks which are mixed up by the glaciers. Hello, white cabbage butterfly. They're apparently interested in this topic as well, as they should be.
They like mineral-rich
like
food, too.
Mineralized brassicas,
Yeah.
by far the best. And they don't need to munch up all your plants. They can get a few bites and they're done. And you got all plenty for yourself. Important principle. Anyway, Gaia Green Glacial Rock Dust, Gaia being a name for the Mother Earth, is a very good source. Comes out of British Columbia. A lot of places are marketing this now. Peaceful Valley Farm Supply and Harmony Farm Supply out in this area, in Sebastopol area. And quite a few others. Lingso Garden Materials in Redwood City, down near where I live in the San Francisco Peninsula. So that's a good one.
So does that have all the same, well, I can't say all the same because it's going to have a different spectrum of minerals, but...
Different balance, but
Sure.
basically the same full spectrum is usually what's found in glacial mixes, because the glaciers crush and grind rocks from a number of different strata of the Earth's crust and mix them together and spread them out over usually huge areas during the glacial periods, and on a smaller scale in the interglacial periods. They, like in the Hunza land, where the people are reputed to be the healthiest people in the world and among the longest lived, as you can read about, say, in John Robbins' Healthy at 100 book. The Hunza people are benefiting every year from the glacial meltwater coming down out of the Himalayas above them, and the glacial meltwater is full of the finely entrained rock powder ground by the glaciers. They call it glacial milk in Hunza land, and they drink it as well as add it to their soil and all their crops, so they have super high quality food there. Remember Dorleen Tong from the San Francisco Raw Food Group went there and tasted their produce. She was amazed. You know, she hadn't really tasted true organic mineralized produce. Big upgrade from standard organic produce grown often with slaughterhouse byproducts and animal manures and benign neglect to adding all the minerals and making the soil just so much better. A lot of the taste compounds as well as the health producing compounds are found in the trace minerals. So if you're lacking molybdenum and zinc and manganese and various trace minerals, the quality of the food and the taste value of the food goes way down. And there's been studies showing, like since early 1900s, there's been 20 to 80% drops typically in most minerals measured from the foods back then compared to now. So we're seeing a cumulative demineralization of the soil year after year, decade after decade, leading us to, if not total extinction, which is possible, to a state of degeneration where we're not even conscious and able to understand what's happening to us, like the frog in the frying pan where they gradually turn up the water and it doesn't jump out, it just stays there and gets boiled. You know, the degeneration of the human brain and body and spirit, along with ecological degeneration, seems to go hand in hand. So we're obviously part of this whole system. If we want to upgrade our health, it's not just human health we need to be concerned, it's total ecological health that's obviously the issue.